Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. My name is Rich Keefe, joined as always.
Not always.
No, not always in Dorktober. That's a good
Not
point,
always,
Ryan.
yeah.
But today, it is your boy,
Mhm.
the king of ginger ales, Ryan Davey. Davey, how are you?
I'm having a good night. This is going to be a fun one.
Yes, it is. Hashtag Dorktober 4. The Dream Master is in full swing.
Mhm.
And you know what that means? We're going to have all kinds of episodes left, right, and center. We had one already with my wife making her debut doing Candyman.
Mm-hmm.
As you could tell, she was very comfortable doing the episode.
Super comfortable.
She was not. It was not her favorite thing to do, but she was happy it was over.
Yeah, as you know, sometimes we all are. We all,
yeah.
There are some episodes where I'm happy when they're over too.
Correct. So you can go through all month long. There's gonna be a lot of good stuff, and these are sort of one-off movie du jours where it's gonna be pretty much all spoilers, especially the older ones. Maybe if we do like some new ones, maybe we'll kind of ease up on it. But as you can see in the title of the episode, we are doing Evil Dead 2. And the reason why we are doing this is because this is Davey Eyeballs' favorite horror movie.
It's my favorite horror movie ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's a good one. It's a good one to have on the list.
It.
And you're not alone. A lot of people really enjoy Evil Dead 2. It has a monster like cult following.
Yes.
Why do you think why do you like it so much, and why do you think it's as popular as it is?
Well, I have a odd relationship with this movie in that the second I saw Evil Dead, right? Because it was growing up, watching horror movies and trying to find like the best B horror movie. Like I always found like I would walk by like Evil Dead and like not and I finally saw it and I wasn't crazy about it. And I think it was just like kind of hokey and kind of dumb, and it was clearly like low budget, right?
I would say so.
And then I was playing, so I was like 16 years old or 15 or 16 years old, and I was playing this game. It was a computer game. As you know, I like to play the video games.
You do. You're a big video game guy.
And there was this game that I think it was id came out with. It was just called Blood. Like that was the name of the game. It was called Blood.
I mean, let's not overthink it. I mean, if that's a good name for a game.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys played any Blood recently? Like, yeah, I played Blood.
Oh, it wasn't it. It was GT Interactive. Same people who made Carmageddon. But anyway, it was like this first-person shooter game. And like I thought that this game, like there were all these one-liners in the game. Think of like a knockoff Doom.
Ooh.
But there was like a lot of like one-liners and stuff. And I was telling one of my friends about it, and he was like, that's just Evil Dead 2, dude. And I was like, there's an Evil Dead 2?
Electric Boogaloo?
I was like, I've seen Evil Dead. And he's like, no, yeah, dude, you got to see Evil Dead. You got to see Evil Dead 2. It's the greatest horror movie ever made. And so what I found was that this is not so much a sequel to Evil Dead, but it's basically, it's like a parody. It's like a sequel parody of the first one.
Yeah, because I was gonna say it's called Evil Dead 2, but it's not a sequel. It's also not even really a remake. It's sort of like an offshoot of it where they took it and they were like the first Evil Dead, from the best of my knowledge, was a little bit more serious.
Yeah, and it was like a cabin of the woods, four friends going into a cabin.
Yeah.
They stumble upon the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the book literally the book out of the dead. The book out from the dead, which I don't know if you know this. There's a thing on my wall back there that says a degree in classical languages from.
You don't get that overnight either.
You don't get that. No, that's the years of practice.
That takes a little bit of work.
So that was a bit like whatever. And then the beauty of Evil Dead 2 is they just breeze through all of that. Like why the start of the movie until the very first person gets their head chopped off is like 4 minutes.
Oh, there's not a whole lot of messing around here.
No, we're not screwing around. We're not. And why are we going to some random cabin that I found in the woods? I don't know. Yeah.
Ryan, they don't make movies like they used to. This is a crisp 84 minutes,
which is awesome. And I don't know where this idea came from. I just know that I love it, and I know that it's just like everything's up to 11, and it's probably one of the best physical comedy performances I have seen ever.
And
Bruce Campbell.
And the thing with Bruce Campbell is, unfortunately, there's like a section of the world that probably doesn't even really know who Bruce Campbell is.
Yes.
But those who do couldn't say a bad thing about him.
Listen to this podcast. Those who do listen are listening to this right now.
But like that's like a cutoff line. Like if you're a fan of horror movies, you love Bruce Campbell, you love the character of Ash, but you also love Bruce Campbell, and you're like, this guy, why isn't he in more things? Like, why isn't he? He seems like he's like a handsome son of a gun. He can do the physical comedy. He can do like the horror stuff. He can do the one-liners, which in Army of Darkness they ramp up even more. Obviously.
Even more, and that's what I was going to get into. So you have like this progression of these three movies, and in my mind, like they keep. I don't see Army of Darkness as a horror movie. That's why I wouldn't consider it my favorite horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like is Shaun of the Dead a horror movie?
I mean, that's more of a horror movie than Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is more of like a sci-fi, like a fantasy movie.
They're both like, they're both like horror comedy type.
Yeah.
You know, I think tricky.
Evil Dead 2 is more horror just because of and like you said, the one-liners and just the physical comedy.
Oh my God.
Just out of this world.
And they also they took something too with like they weren't going straight zombies, like they weren't stealing George Romero's stuff. They kind of created their own thing, like the Deadites. Like they kind of, like the look of them, like especially for movies that came out in the 80s, like they were crazy with like the makeup and all that stuff, and like how they made it. And then also the way they like Sam Raimi shoots it, like it's very unique. Like people have since stolen that or like kind of copied it. But the way that he shoots stuff, just like the way they run in the woods, I think if you watch it now, you'd be like, oh, that's cool. But it's one of those things where if you were watching this in the 80s or even like us, like in the 90s watching it, you're like, Jesus Christ, like, what is this? This is amazing.
And not only that, but like people say like, oh, Evil Dead 2 is just Evil Dead with a budget. And I don't think that's true.
They are different. It's an interesting exercise though, if you watch them back to back.
Because
there is overlap, obviously.
There is overlap. And if you think about like, they probably had a little bit more money the second time around, but there's still no budget. You know,
the Evil Dead 2 budget was $3.6 million.
No, it's nothing.
It's
nothing.
And Julia Roberts got like 20 for Aaron Brockovich.
And what does a camera cost? What does camera and film cost? Because that's probably what Evil Dead cost.
That was pretty much.
And
let me see what that cost. The budget. Oh, the budget was between $350,000 and $400,000.
Yeah, like nothing. Like that's nothing.
Yeah,
I think the only thing cheaper than that was like Blair Witch or something. But
Blair Witch was super cheap. Also, was really actually, you know, what was cheaper, and I might be talking about this with somebody coming up. Is Paranormal Activity?
Oh yeah,
that was dirt cheap. That was like the cost of like an iPhone bill, you know, and then they were able to get it going.
But I love this movie because, like I said, I think the purpose of this movie is not to scare you, but to it's just ridiculous. And the parts that do scare you are offset by these incredibly funny moments. And I say, like, I think my favorite moment of the movie is his Bruce Campbell or Ash's fight with his own hand.
It's crazy. Like, it just, when you're watching that, you just get so sucked into it. And you're like, what am I watching right now?
And he's doing these things with his hand where he's kind of like snapping it towards his face. And like, there's like this, like, you actually think for a second that someone else is controlling it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it ends with him, the two of my favorite scenes, it ends with him cutting off his own hand, exclaiming, "Who's laughing now?" And you get that shot of him, that super close-up shot of him with the blood all over his face, like screaming.
Amazing, yeah.
And then the very next scene, he has it in like a coffee tin, and to order to like keep it in there, he puts a stack of books on the coffee tin, and the first one you see is A Farewell to Arms. Like that's I don't like to throw around the word genius, but that's pretty clever.
It's smart. It's very smart. And anytime you can, if you lose your hand and you have to replace it with something, some people might go hook, like in Candyman, or some people might like go hammer. Maybe a hammer, maybe something, maybe just like a prosthetic hand. What if I told you it was a chainsaw?
A chainsaw.
Perfect.
And he built in the little thing, a little ripcord thing, like on his shirt. Like that. I mean,
it's awesome.
Unbelievable. Like, what is the most ridiculous thing we can do? We get a chainsaw hand.
Yeah. It's like, well, he's gonna need to do something with the other hand. Like, all right.
And then he saws off the shotgun with the chainsaw hand. I mean,
at that point, like any kind of hero in a horror movie, your best hope is to like maybe equal that, because you'll never do better. You'll never do better than a badass with a chainsaw hand and a sawed-off shotgun, and one-liners.
I will say this:
maybe the coolest guy in horror movies.
He is the Han Solo of horror movies.
Yes. Thank you. That's
Like not
well
even
said.
like that's when I was watching.
Yeah.
I was watching it again because I watch it. I'll watch Evil Dead 2 like once a year.
Just pop it in, sure.
Just popping in,
Especially
and
in Dorktober. Why not? What's stopping you?
yeah, and I had a reason to watch it this time. I didn't
Yes, you
just
did.
like. And this is one of those movies. I think the true mark of a cult movie is you ask people if they've seen it, and if they say no, you say we're watching this right now.
Yeah, let's go grab.
Like I don't care what we said we were going to do.
Yeah.
Like we're watching this right now.
This is what we're doing.
And this is Evil. That's Evil Dead 2 for me. There's other movies. Spinal Tap is another movie like that for me.
Yeah,
like if
Evil
you
Dead
haven't seen
2
that,
is definitely one where it's like it's the horror movies fans horror movie. Like
Right.
like what I was saying about Bruce Campbell and like Ash, like the character and the actor is, but like so is the movie. Because
Yeah.
like I think everybody like Halloween appeals to more of a wide audience. Like obviously Scream clearly does. Even like some of the Stephen King ones are a little bit more of a wide audience. Like Evil Dead is like there's nobody who's like, man, I don't really like horror, but I love Evil Dead. Like,
no, and I think if you talk to horror fans, like someone who claims to be a fan of horror movies, and you ask them what their top 5, they're
in it every time.
It'll be a scattershot, but everybody will have Evil Dead 2 in it.
It's in there. What do you think your best guess on the last I checked the Rotten Tomatoes score for Evil Dead 2?
I didn't check on purpose because I didn't want to like get anyone else's reviews, but I'm guessing it's higher than normal. I want to say it's like most horror movies I feel are between like 20 and 60. I would say though, like in the low 80s, mid 80s,
98%.
I'm incredibly surprised, but not surprised.
I know. It's like every once in a while, it's weird. Like I think recent horror movies, and this obviously isn't recent, but it's either it's all or nothing. Like was it like Get Out and like Quiet Place, and those ones are all like high 90s, like 100 for a while. And so like one guy's like, well, I didn't really enjoy it, and then like it goes lower. But so for them to go through, and obviously because it came out in 87, it's not like there's 1,000 critics, so maybe the number would come down, but it was like a low number, but still. Even they kind of got it, like what it was supposed to be. They did the best of it.
Yeah, and I think I read somewhere too that this is like one of Stephen King's favorite horror movies.
Yes, it is. Yeah. He loved it. Did you see the remake or the reboot? I did not.
I did. It's a completely different movie. It's more like the original Evil Dead in that it's trying to be scary. It's trying to be like gruesome.
Okay,
and there are some freaky parts in it, like. Remember that in the scene in Evil Dead 2, the girl gets like taken by the tree?
Yeah.
Like she gets like,
yeah.
It's like implied that the tree does some bad things to her.
Oh, come on.
This is like more in your face.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's pretty fucked up.
It is. Yeah, I mean, overall, it is like even like all of them are, but then they have like kind of like they kind of loosen it with like a little bit of comedy. All the stuff with like the deadite that gets locked into like the cellar, like that whole thing's crazy.
I saw like that thing. I love that stuff. And I remember
nuts.
There was what's the she's singing the nursery rhyme, the Hush Little Baby thing. It's the horror of the ridiculous. Like everything in that movie is ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
that's a good way of putting it.
And I just enjoy every second of that movie. Like, and you said it's a tight 84 minutes or something.
84 minutes.
Like you're in and out. Like it's and again, we're into spoilers now because if you haven't seen Evil Dead, like what are you doing? But Ash's girlfriend, he cuts her head off with a shovel 4 minutes into the movie. Like right out of the chute. Like she gets possessed. He turns on the tape recorder and it says the words and she gets, infected, I guess you could say, and then bang. And then it's just insane from then on out. I love every second of it.
It's pretty damn good. That's for sure. Let's see. What was the other thing I was going to say about it? The first Evil Dead, this is just like a fun fact. Got when Nancy was watching TV from A Nightmare on Elm Street, she's like dozing off and she's watching Evil Dead. And they do that a lot, especially Wes Craven movies. Like he'll always kind of reference other horror movies. Like clearly Scream, it's just nonstop. But even like subtle, like where they just show something on TV for like a brief second, and that happens to be Evil Dead in that one.
And the other reason I wanted to do this, Richard, speaking of that,
yes,
I think so. The original Evil Dead came out in 1981.
Yes.
Evil Dead 2 came out in 1987. Was that not the same year as Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Warriors?
Well, so I fucked that up. It's actually Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is Dream Warriors, 4 is the Dream Master.
Okay, so we are the Dream Masters now?
We now have to be the Dream Master because it is Dorktober 4. So
okay,
that was my bad. Yeah.
It came out 88. So it did.
You were right. No, you were right. See, I confused the third. 87 was the year that Dream Warriors came out. But that's 3. That's also happens to be pretty good.
Dream Warriors or the Dream Master?
No, Dream Master's trash. Dream Warriors is good. That's the one with Patricia Arquette, isn't it?
Yeah, the sweet theme song.
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime you can have your guys from Dawkins in there.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Nightmare on Elm Street. First one's very good. Second one is awful. Third one is really good.
Really good.
4 and 5 and 6 are not good at all. Then the 7th one is New Nightmare. That was the Wes Craven's
a good
New
one.
Nightmare.
And that was like the meta one, right?
It was like kind of pre-Scream. Like they played like themselves and stuff.
Right. Like Robert Englund played Robert Englund in the movie, but also played Freddy.
Right.
Yeah.
But that one was cool. Freddy versus Jason I thought was entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, people were waiting for the movie forever, and when are these two going to actually go at each other? So,
the reboot was not great.
And I feel like that was kind of a waste. I think Jackie Earle Haley's an awesome guy to play. Freddy Krueger.
He is. All right, so since that was obviously a very famous crossover between Freddy and Jason.
Yep.
Would you like to see any kind of Evil Dead crossover? And if so, who would he cross over with?
So there was I believe for a time there was rumored to be, and this is like I want to say like the early days of like Google, like it was like Ash versus Freddy versus Jason. Like that was like a rumored movie.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
You're definitely right. Yeah.
And I was like, we need to see this movie. Like if Sam Raimi directed it and wrote it, like I think that would be something cool.
I think that would be good. Like,
and I'm trying to think like
good against them.
What about like Ash versus Evil Dead, the show is incredible. I
like that show. That was good.
Like that was very first scene of that show. I think it was on Stars. Yeah.
That show.
I think it's done.
Man, there were some bloodbaths on that show.
And it was incredible. Like
it was good. It was funny.
Yeah.
The new characters were good. So yeah.
And just and I love how they do it. It's more in Army of Darkness and Ash vs. Evil Dead. Like this guy's supposed to like save the world, and what a just like absolute loser he is in his everyday life.
Yeah.
S-Mart.
Working at S-Mart. Shop Smart. Shop S-Mart.
Just incredible. Incredible. And I actually so my buddy Fridge and I went, when we were in college, we went to go see, we drove, and this is like the oddest thing that I'm about to say that I've ever said on this podcast. Fridge and I drove. I went and picked him up I drove from New Hampshire, picked him up at Yukon, and then we drove to Mount Holyoke.
Obviously.
To see Bruce Campbell give a talk. And it was just everything you thought it would be. The guy's like, he's exactly what you think he would be like in real life. Like we actually got to talk to him for like 3 or 4 minutes.
What do you think? Actually, I'll look it up. What do you think his net worth is?
I don't know. I have no idea. Not enough. But he referred to me several times, and this is before I said I was in college. He called me professor.
Called you professor?
Yeah. So I goes like, hey, it's nice to meet you. He's like, yeah, what's your story, professor? Like I was like, and I will always remember that Bruce Campbell. That was what Bruce Campbell called me. And I took all these pictures with me and him with a disposable camera, and as those were wont to do, it didn't develop.
Nice.
The pictures did not develop.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. He is, according to Celebrity Net Worth, $10 million.
Fine.
So good for him.
Good for him. Like he can do whatever he wants.
Should be more, but that's still nice.
Yeah. I mean, what can't you do with 10 million? Like what can't you do?
Jeez, maybe buy an island.
Yeah, but like, what do you need an island for? I don't like the beach.
I don't like a lot of people around though.
That's true.
Yeah, but you could build like a little hut for yourself.
You could buy a cabin in the woods.
Look at this, full circle.
Full circle. We nailed
all the chainsaws and shotguns and cabins that you can handle. That's pretty good. Yeah. Ryan, you got anything else on Evil Dead 2?
Boogaloo? I mean, again, this is a movie that was important to me and kind of put me. There's a lot of things that I wasn't really a horror fan. I saw the very first horror movie I remember seeing and being afraid of was Pet Cemetery.
Yep.
And that was not the scene with the sister with the whatever she had, like spinal meningitis or like spina bifida or whatever.
Yeah, not good.
That did me in. Like I don't like this, you know. And I think the turning point for me in my horror movie life was seeing Evil Dead 2. I think my freshman or sophomore year in high school. Like that's what. And again, I saw Evil Dead and was like, nah. And then I couldn't get enough. And that's what Evil Dead 2 is what put me on the path to like going to Blockbuster with my friends and finding the worst horror movie we could find and just laugh at it. Like that was such a cool part of my youth. And this is what kicked it off. Like that whole thing. Like I even remember like when we met, like you and I watching horror movies together, you know, I'd like, and just finding stupid movies to watch.
I think I watched these certainly because of you, but I think I watched them in the wrong order. Not that it really matters, but I'm pretty sure because you were probably quoting Army of Darkness, and then so I think we watched that first.
Yes, and then I made you watch Evil Dead. I think you watched them in reverse order.
That's what I'm saying. And then I watched Evil Dead 2, and I liked it. And then I'm like, well, at this point, I have to watch Evil Dead. And you were like, it's not as good as the other two, but you should watch it. And then so I ended up watching it.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I owned all of them on DVD, which again, that and a nickel gets you a nickel.
I think I still have Army of Darkness on DVD. I think that's one of the holdovers from my massive DVD collection that I had and sold for rent money.
Fuck.
Yeah.
What a sad state. My horror collection, I would stack up there with anybody's, even with fucking Blockbuster. My horror collection was off the charts for a while.
Hey, you got the Night Flyer? Do you know how hard?
You know what? I didn't have the Night Flyer.
Do you know how hard it was for me to not come on this like little micro podcast and not talk about the Night Flyer?
Do a dork short on the Night Flyer? The short dork? That was actually
micro.
The long.
Can we call these micro dorks?
These are micro dorks.
Yeah.
Short dorks. They're short dorks for dork shorts. Or no, dork shorts for short dorks. We've done, and you can check the archives. I know they only go back so far, but they're available somewhere. We did, I think, 2 or 3 different years. We did best horror movies you've never seen. And but that's the first time I think you talked about the Night Flyer. But we've definitely done a whole bunch of those. I should try to find those and put them on YouTube again or something. But
yeah. Again, based on a Stephen King short story about a vampire who flies a single-engine plane into airports. Stephen King's The Night Flyer.
And then, of course, I asked you, why would a vampire need a plane?
And what was my response?
Because he needs the plane.
Some sort of swear word.
Yeah, you were very short with me.
That's one of the most disturbing end scenes I've ever seen, and I think I've
never seen it.
Yeah.
I remember you said it at the time, and we literally got one person to email us and be like, "I watched Night Flyer thanks to Davey, and holy shit, that ending."
Yeah,
like okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
So again, I mean, this is my favorite horror movie and my contribution to Dorktober. If you're listening to this and you haven't seen Evil Dead 2, I would say skip Evil Dead if you have to.
Yeah, watch this
and definitely watch Army of Dark because they bleed right into each other. So. Which is crazy. That's the other thing, too, that they were planning on having a sequel to this. If you watch Evil Dead 2 now, there's a scene that alludes to like Army of Darkness. And obviously the last scene with him standing in. And I love how it's like the 1300s. And like that's not what was going on in the 1300s. Like at all.
Not quite.
Yeah.
I also love that. I think you could watch Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness, and it would take less time than the new Robert De Niro, Al Pacino movie, The Irishman, that comes out. Yeah,
or if you like watch like The Green Mile on TV, like you could fit all 3 of these movies into that.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah,
you'd have no problem doing that.
No problem.
You go back and watch your best parts again.
Yeah,
Ryan, that's a nice job. That's a nice short dork for a dork.
Nice
short.
Tight little micro dork.
Right, just like Evil Dead 2.
You can't even see it. It's just the nub, just the tip of it, just the micro dork.
The last podcast meeting, they said people like 40-minute podcasts, which we've never had a 40-minute podcast.
I don't think we have. I think we might have. I've wanted one for Fallen Kingdom, and I think you stretched it out to 20 minutes.
We had plenty of sweet dynamo action to discuss there. So we're on other ends of the spectrum. We have either the hour-plus dorks or the 20-minute dorks. We don't do 40-minute dorks.
We don't do 40-minute dorks.
We just don't do 40-minute dorks.
No, we're going all in with our dorks.
Well, just be careful because you never know when an episode is going to show up, Ryan. That's the fucking crazy thing about #Dorktober is you're sitting there minding your own business. Yeah. All of a sudden, your fucking phone starts buzzing with a notification. You're like, what could this be? I'm just minding my business. It's a fucking new episode of Dork just showed up.
You think you're safe. You think you're safe and you're not.
You're fucking not.
You're not.
You're not. So I don't know how many of these are going to be. I haven't even counted. I haven't even mapped them out. As far as the other normal episodes, Those will happen throughout the month. All the Breaking Bad stuff, Joker, all that stuff. I don't even know when I'm going to post this one, but we're going to have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of content this month. So strap in and strap on, Ryan.
Need the numbers, baby.
You need those numbers. Pick them numbers up. Pick them numbers up. All right. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Oh, you can follow us on Twitter at Dork Podcast.
Please do.